After a very long layoff, game number one, night number one of the 2024 NBA Finals has finally arrived. Tonight inside TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, it's the Celtics in the hunt for championship number 18. That would be a record for the most all-time in the history of the association. Host the Dallas Mavericks into their third ever NBA Finals, the first appearance into the championship series for Dallas as an organization since they won the Larry O'Brien Trophy back in 2011. Donnie, we have waited. It has been 7 days without an actual NBA playoff game since the Mavericks took care of the Timberwolves in only 5 games in the Western Conference Finals exactly a week ago. Boston hasn't played since Memorial Day Monday after sweeping the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. And on this day of the opening night of the 2024 NBA Finals, here is the line for game number one. The Celtics will enter as a 6.5-point home favorite. The over-under stands at 215 and a hook. There will be plenty of breakdowns and previews coming your way throughout these next 2.5 hours to get you set for the NBA Finals. But DRS, we have finally arrived. What are your impressions of the numbers for game number one?
Looks pretty strong for the Boston Celtics here, being a favorite of close to 7 points at home. We know how dominant the Boston Celtics have been at home this season, and rightfully so. They have been decent in the playoffs at home. They just finished off that sweep against the Pacers, but they did lose back-to-back game number 2s on their home court in their first 2 rounds. We'll see if that holds up, because if you are the Mavericks, you got to get in and steal one in Boston before you head back to Dallas to shift back that home court advantage. But also, when we handicap these situations, we talked about this ad nauseum, and we had a lot of time to get ready for this game, but I still have in my mind rest versus rust. And both, it's not as saying like, well, one team had 3 days off, one team had all 19 days off, right? It's both about equal here. Both of these teams will be rested and ready, but the problem is going to be is sometimes when you take players out of their normal NBA routine, which they've been following all the way since back in October, and you place them back in an environment where it's not even just, hey, we took a week off for the Olympic break and we're back on a random Thursday night in February to play the Charlotte or New Orleans at this point. No, this is the NBA Finals. This is the biggest spotlight of your career. And last time I checked here, the Dallas Mavericks, when's the last time they won a championship with the players on their team? And also you take a look at the Boston Celtics. Same thing you could be said across. This is a big spot environment in game number one right out of the break. Could we get a lower scoring first quarter, slowness into it as these two teams feel it out? That's what I'm worried about the most here entering into game number one.
It is the age-old debate, rest versus rust, but both teams have been off for at least 7 days. I actually think the team that had the least amount of time off, being the Dallas Mavericks, is the beneficiary, not because they had a shorter amount of time off or they feel a little bit fresher because it's a week, but Luka Doncic, who by all accounts has been slightly hobbled, yet brilliant throughout this NBA postseason, got some much-needed time to figure things out with that knee, but you could make a similar argument, I guess, for the Celtics and Kristaps Porzingis. Again, plenty of previews specifically for game number one and the numbers to know to start the NBA Finals tonight coming your way over these next 2+ hours. But Donnie and I dive in to an NBA Finals pick six. We often give you a pick six throughout times in the sports calendar throughout a year. Oftentimes it's for a National Football League weekend. Here's how the pick six works this time around. Who we think ends up as the NBA champion. What the exact series score is going to be. Who wins that NBA Finals MVP award. An X factor that could dictate the outcome of this series. Our favorite series leader bet. Who's going to lead the series in points, assists, threes, so on and so forth. And a series special with some plus money to know as well. Donnie, right side, kick us off. When all is said and done, between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks, who goes home as an NBA champion?
The NBA champions should be the Boston Celtics. They're favored to do so. They have home court advantage. They were the best team wire to wire in the NBA. Nothing in the playoffs has shown us that they wouldn't be able to compete against the Dallas Mavericks. They were down one of their starters, still easily able to pound teams in 5 games and also 4 games with that final sweep there of the Pacers. So as I'm lining this series up, do I want it to go long? Absolutely. Do I really enjoy watching Luka Doncic play and Kyrie Irving? Phenomenal stuff here. So entertainment purposes, I'm looking forward to it. But the better team here, the deeper team, the team with home court advantage, the team that's favored, that's the Boston Celtics. They should be able to win the NBA championship here.
I agree with you, DRS. I bet the Celtics on March the 20th at a plus 220 price to win the NBA championship this season. As I was starting to see how the Eastern Conference laid out, I didn't think it would be as easy for the C's as we saw throughout this NBA postseason, but it made a lot of sense that Boston was going to win the East and at least be here in the NBA Finals, so I had that cash out or hedge out opportunity. I do have a little bit of investment then on the Dallas Mavericks just to cover my behind, if you know what I am saying. But ultimately, I do believe it is going to be the Boston Celtics. I think this series can really be boiled down to one main ingredient. Boston, the better overall team. Dallas, the better overall superstar, best overall player in Luka Doncic. Maybe better duo with Doncic and Irving versus Tatum and Brown. But ultimately, I believe the balance and the depth at this stage in an NBA Finals will be too much for the Boston Celtics. We have seen a slight bit of movement for the lines for game number one. The Celtics opened as a 6-point favorite, total at 214 and a hook. The over-under is up by a point. We have added on the hook to the spread in favor of the C's, and we've seen 5 cents of movement in those outright prices you just saw, minus 220 when this series was determined, minus 225 now in Boston's favor. So we both think it will be the Celtics, but in how many games?
I think this is going to go long, right? So game 6 you're probably looking at, and if I think Boston is going to win it, where is it hard to usually win late in the series? A lot of pressure. That's going to be all road. So if I were to say to myself, I do think the Celtics would win this, it's kind of tough for me to say in 6. Now, maybe 5 games could be possible, but if I'm looking for a longer series, which I think does happen, I don't think it gets done in 5. So I'm going to go ahead with the Celtics in 7 games here to win it. And how much fun would that be to get a full 7-game series to watch this play out? And I'm sure one of those superstars on the Celtics will be able to rise to the occasion on their home court. So I'm going to go Boston 4-3 in this series at a plus 340 price.
So, DRS, I actually think both teams will get a win on the road. Each team will have at least one win on the road throughout the NBA Finals. And Boston is actually a perfect 6-0 straight up away from TD Garden, where they have had the home floor advantage all postseason long throughout this playoff run. So give me Boston in 6 at plus 470. Third shortest number for how this NBA Finals is ultimately determined. More with our NBA Finals Pick 6 next. We continue our 2024 NBA Finals Pick 6 to go all around the championship series to find you some numbers you need to know. And those numbers and odds, of course, associated with how we think this series is playing out. So both Donnie and I believe the Boston Celtics will win championship number 18 when all is said and done in the NBA Finals. DRS thinks it's season 7. I think it's the Celtics in 6. So if we both believe Boston is victorious, then the NBA Finals MVP is coming from this Celtics organization. Who wins the hardware?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, too, because typical me, I'd probably think, I think Luka Doncic can win the MVP. And I pulled off these highlights previously here where I had the All-Star Game MVP and I picked the other team to win, and it actually landed exactly that way. So sometimes you can get crazy and win, but we're right here. You can't go ahead and say, if I think the Celtics are going to win, let me see how amazing Luka Doncic is going to be in the series. So it's pretty easy for me. It's Jayson Tatum at a minus 125 price. The biggest superstar has got to step up in those biggest moments, and none bigger than this moment for Jayson Tatum. Now, there is a part of me that says, well, Donnie, if you're going to bet Jayson Tatum to win, that means you're rooting for the Celtics, which is tough. But again, you have to separate the fandom from the actual money you believe you can make on a certain game or a series. But having said that, if the Celtics did lose and Tatum didn't play well, this offseason would be so incredible to watch in Boston with all the heat the Celtics would take as being the best team that can never get over the hump and continuously chokes in the biggest moments here. But I do think the Celtics get over the hump, and a big reason is going to be why Jayson Tatum's going to have a really good final series. That's the expectation.
You are spot on. If Boston falls short once again of an NBA championship with this core led by the Jays, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you would have to think there are sweeping changes coming to the C's at a certain point this summer. But like you, I don't believe that happens. And like you, in a narrative-defining series for Jayson Tatum, in a narrative award that is given out, which is the Finals MVP, I think Tatum takes home the award. Jaylen Brown got the Eastern Conference Finals MVP award. Tatum gets the NBA Finals MVP award. And it's not like Tatum was atrocious against Indiana. He scored 23 or more in all 4 games. He had 36 in half twice of the games against the Pacers. It's just that Jaylen Brown hit the game-tying shot to send it to OT in game number 1. Had a 40-point performance in game number 2 and was great down the stretch in that closeout game in game number 4. So Jaylen Brown got the edge, not this time around. If the Boston Celtics win the NBA championship, Jayson Tatum will win the NBA Finals MVP. Who is our X factor for this NBA championship series?
Drew Holiday for me. So if we're taking a look at an X factor, how's he going to be able to impact the game? One of those players that's been there, done that before, an NBA veteran, but more importantly, plays very good defense. And so if we're looking towards offensive scoring, we understand Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum are going to do the majority of that. But when you take a look at that defensive side, just as important, if not maybe even more important than the scoring, is slowing down the two superstars of the Dallas Mavericks. So if you're going to take a look at Kyrie Irving, maybe hold him to under his season points average, and doing the same thing with Luka Doncic, that's going to help you win an NBA championship just as much as scoring 30 points a game. The X factor for me, not on the offensive end, but on the defensive end, it's Drew Holiday.
I think it's a really fair point, DRS. Drew Holiday is who I had in there initially. Then I changed my answer to Derek White. And here's why I'm going with Derek White, but I think Drew Holiday makes a lot of sense on the defensive end of the floor. The reason I think Boston is victorious against Dallas in this NBA Finals is because of the balance and depth that the Celtics possess. The better team will win the championship versus the better superstar in Luka Doncic. Derek White has attempted 8 or more threes in 11 of the 14 playoff games that Boston has played so far. His 3 points prop tonight is 2.5, and the over isn't even all that juiced at minus 128. The volume is there for Derek White to hit 3, 4, 5 threes throughout every game in this NBA Finals, and that, I think, is a big difference. The depth of Boston, having those key role guys who are darn good, like a Derek White, like a Drew Holiday. In fact, Kristaps Porzingis returning as well. Derek White gets my nod. Series leader, DRS, what was your best bet there?
Yeah, you know what? Let's have some fun with this. Sometimes you'll go for a lower price point. I wanted to go for a higher price point, and I do expect a lot of motivation to be on the side of Kyrie Irving, but also one of those guys where you have to get the rest of the offense in the flow along with your own. Kyrie Irving, series leader in assists. How about this? At a 16-1 price. So Kyrie delivering the goods to the other players on wide open three-point shots. Because how many times do you see this, right? We know we have to slow down Doncic and Irving. A lot easier said than done. A lot of guys are going to have wide open looks here. If they can knock down those shots, you get a lot of assists. Give me Kyrie 16-1.
We'll wrap up our 2024 NBA Finals Pick 6 when hour number 2 begins on the other side of the break. Live right here on this Thursday on the Early Line. Finally, for the 2024 NBA Finals. After a full week without a single NBA playoff game, the championship series starts tonight inside TD Garden in Boston between the Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks on what has already been a busy and chaotic morning in the association with the report the LA Lakers are targeting UConn's Dan Hurley as their next head coach. The NBA told us, DRS, you get a week with nothing. Start filling. Start talking storylines and narratives for the NBA Finals. And then on game day Thursday, everything. The levee breaks, and we have all of the headlines we need around the association.
And by the way, if you are the NBA and you're supposed to be correlating this, and I think sometimes in the NFL they do this on purpose, why wasn't this story reported back on Monday? So we can get a lot of traction out of it here. Like, we had nothing going on in the NBA, and that you want to plant a story at basically 7 a.m. East Coast the morning before the NBA Finals has started. That's bad content, people. You need to get this story out. And also, who gets the okay to give that out early morning? Like, why was that the thought process? Like, you know what? We've been cooking this story up because much everybody else where you're talking about, let's wait on the NFL where you get the tampering stuff here. Obviously, there's no tampering in NBA action when you're trying to get a head coach, but they didn't just pick up the phone last night, Ben, at 3 a.m. Like, you know what? Great idea. Would love to be a Lakers coach. All right, let's put the game plan together. This had to have been going on for at least a few days. The fact that it broke this morning was kind of interesting to me.
The skeptic inside of me would say that the NBA has been off for a week. It is game number 1 on the Disney family of networks tonight on ABC of the NBA Finals. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski is the one to tweet this out this morning, trying to build the enthusiasm all day long to stay on those TV networks, where what also is so funny to me is tonight on the broadcast of game number 1, J.J. Redick, the guy that was floated by Shams Charania as the next head coach of the L.A. Lakers just 2 days ago. Fascinating stuff all day long for game number 1 of the 2024 NBA Finals. We continue to give you picks here for this NBA Championship Series. I asked Donnie who his series leader was before the break. He took a big plus money price, 16-1 on Kyrie Irving to lead the NBA Finals in assists. I actually go with a minus money price that I think is worth the payment. Minus 180 for Luka Doncic to lead the NBA Finals in scoring.
Yeah.
The reason I think it's worth the payment is because I believe even in a series defeat, Luka Doncic is going to score the most points in this NBA Championship Series. Why do I say minus 180 is worth the price? Well, let's just compare based on what we know from the odds perspective, game by game, throughout this NBA Finals. Luka Doncic has the highest points prop tonight at 31.5. That is 4 more points than the next closest competitor. That's Jayson Tatum for the Boston Celtics. One of the great things that has popped up here, DRS, on the FanDuel Sportsbook throughout this NBA postseason, head-to-head specials where you can bet players against each other in terms of points or rebounds or whatever it might be in a certain prop in stat category on each and every night in the association. So there is that match bet between Luka Doncic and Jayson Tatum, the two guys that have the best prices to lead the NBA Finals in scoring. And Luka is a minus 225 outright favorite to have more points tonight. If that's going to be the case throughout the NBA Finals, then the minus 180 for Luka Doncic to lead the series is really not all that bad, in my opinion.
No, it's not all that bad. And also, let's take up the environment of we're just going to go handicap and use analytics involved. You take a look at the Boston Celtics, the way they're built as a team. On a night-to-night basis, it could be Tatum, it could be Jaylen Brown, and maybe Derek White, as we like to say, gets hot from three-point range and steals one with, 25 points in a game. The one thing that we do look at the Dallas Mavericks on a night-to-night basis, we're not saying the way they win the series is, it'd be nice if P.J. Washington stepped up tonight and maybe Kyrie. No, you actually have to have an unbelievable performance. Let's just say it goes 7 games. Luka's got to be around 30 points every single one of those games for Dallas to compete. And that's not to say that Dallas is a bad basketball team. That's just the way they're built with their superstar player, not the way the Celtics are built, where a couple guys can actually beat you. So that minus 180 price makes some sense because why? He's the favorite to have the ball in his hand when it matters most. And at the end of games, you say, wow, great performance by the Mavericks. They scored 113 points. What did Luka get? 17. That's not happening. So I agree with you with that price point and also the player.
We didn't really talk about it in the NBA Finals MVP conversation, both you and I giving the nod to Jayson Tatum, but I do believe there's a world the Celtics win the NBA championship and Tatum is not the NBA Finals MVP for whatever reason. I do not believe there is a world the Dallas Mavericks win the NBA championship and Luka Doncic does not win the NBA Finals MVP award. By the way, some drastic movement in that market from just earlier this week. 7-1 now on Jaylen Brown, third shortest price, 18-1 on Kyrie Irving. Those two guys were tied. Oh, no, never mind. That was series scoring leader, right? 12-1 yesterday. My fault. Got a lot of the content mixed up here as we've had a full week off from the NBA. What should have been the final component of this pick six, our favorite series storyline for the NBA Finals, is our favorite series special. Some big plus money out there in a fun market. Donnie, what got your attention?
Yeah, we'll go again, a plus 650 price. And for keeping in that market of I do think Kyrie Irving can lead this series in assists, well, he's probably going to have 1 or 2 monster games in order to do that. And monster not meaning you got to get to 15. How about double-digit assists here? And it's Kyrie Irving to record 10-plus assists in any game here in the NBA Finals at a plus 650 price. As I said, sometimes you're just trying to equate to what you think the Boston Celtics are going to try to do to the Dallas Mavericks. And having said that, yes, every team is like, let's slow down their 2 superstars and force their B players to beat you. But that's usually the way it plays out. If you can get some good open looks from other players, Kyrie Irving's going to have that basketball in his hands a lot. If other guys can make open shots, he should be able to record 1 game of getting 10 assists. It's not multiple games. It's not averaging 10 assists a game. 1 game, 10 assists, a plus 650 price. I'll take that.
I think if he's going to lead the series in assists, there's going to be multiple games he has double-digit assists would be my estimation, knowing Luka Doncic is out there and Jayson Tatum, who has been really good with the ball in his hand, as you would expect. Superstar ball in his hand quite often. Even if he's not scoring, he's facilitating. Jayson Tatum, 5+ assists in all games of the NBA Finals at a 5-1 number. Tatum has had 5+ assists in 8 of the 9 games since the start of the second round set against Cleveland. I'll take my chances in this series that I think is going to be longer than the Celtics have seen throughout this NBA postseason. But I don't mind Jayson Tatum having 5+ times in every game here in the NBA Finals. A complete and balanced effort for a complete and balanced team on track for the Celtics winning an NBA championship.